is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. I'm delighted to be joined by Russian promoter, manager, jack of all trades, Al Siesta. How are you, Al?
I'm very well, thank you very much. And you?
I'm very well. You don't have to speak right into the mic. These are very, very expensive microphones.
Okay, sorry, apology.
You are relatively new to this whole interviewing side of things, as I understand it, though, Al, right?
Very new. Not relatively. The second time in my life I'm being interviewed by you, by the way.
It is, yes. So the last time we caught up was February. So it was the George Groves Chris Eubank Jr. fight, where you told me that George Groves was going to win the fight hands down. You were right. Congratulations. So yeah, tell our viewers who maybe didn't see that interview about who you are and how you got started in boxing.
My name is Al Siesta. I'm a boxing promoter, manager, matchmaker, advisor, boxing lover through and through. Started in boxing about 5.5 years ago, and here I am, continuing doing that, gradually moving up in rankings, doing okay, have lots of friends, enemies, like normal businessmen. But life is beautiful.
That's just boxing though, isn't it? I mean, pretty much everybody in boxing.
Any business. It's any business, basically, yeah. But it's all good, man, all good. I'm happy with the way things are developing right now.
So you're based in Southampton. I know this is something that you've told me before, but I can't remember because I do a lot of these interviews, unlike you, who's only done 2. Tell me a little bit about how a Russian with a background in music, as I believe, came to find himself as a promoter in Southampton, of all places.
I came to study in Southampton University, ended up as a piano demonstrator in one of the music stores in Southampton for a while. They couldn't handle me, I got sacked pretty quickly, quite unusual individual. And since then, just been doing music, recordings, performing, all sorts of stuff. Before, about 5 years ago, God took me by the scruff of my neck and put me in boxing. Since then, my life completely changed, and here I am, promoting events and managing fighters.
Who was the first fighter that you managed?
David Avanesyan, would you believe that, WBA regular welterweight champion of the world. Yeah, but we had a bit of a bitter ending because certain people interfered, and they will pay for it.
It's very ominous in a Russian accent. I think in an English accent that wouldn't sound as threatening, but in yours it's... So tell me a little bit about the stable of fighters that you currently have. As I understand that you have Luther Clay, who is fighting this weekend on your show in Bracknell. Tell me a little bit about the rest of your stable.
I have a few people I'm advising for. I don't want to call them my stable, but I work closely with few fighters like Isachinev, Mairis, Briedis, I work very closely. Mike Perez, for example. I mean, it's too many because I'm basically this black policeman right there. That camera controls my thought process, and I can't give birth very quickly. The line of thought is not as quick as normally. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's lots of fighters, man. There's about 35 fighters I've got who I'm working closely with. French, Russians, Cubans, a couple in the United States, Latvians, Lithuanians, Polish, Ukrainians, UK fighters, Irish fighters. So few. I'm kind of trying to guide the careers, and if they like what I do and they like my vibe, we might sign one day. But because when I sign with a fighter, it's not only going one way. It's not about fighters signing with me and thinking, oh great, I signed them. I have to commit. So for me, I have to deliver the same what I promised. So for me, sometimes people saying, why are you not signing the contract? Because I'm thinking, if I am a suitable promoter for you, a manager, maybe there's someone else better, or maybe I can be just playing a role of advisor and tell you, and you give me your 10% each fight I bring for you, or maybe I'm a matchmaker for you, not necessarily for me to commit you fully with my time and effort. Maybe we can just coexist on much easier basis, you know. That's my thought.
Of your many roles in boxing, which one do you enjoy the most? Is it the promoting? Is it the managing? What gets you going more than any of the other things that you do?
The best siesta you get as a manager, because I know this inside out, this job, and I'm very precise, hardworking, and what is this word when I keep forgetting English, you see? I'm very reliable, yeah? I like the promotional thing, and I'd like to promote, and I do believe I'll be better as a promoter as the time goes by. I can advise, but matchmaker and a manager is 2 things that I know inside out.
So what's the day-to-day of a manager? In my head, it's sort of chasing fighters around, making sure people need to be where they are, or where they need to be rather. So what's your day to day? You get up in the morning and you do what?
I get up in the morning, the laptop's still open with box rec and emails from the last night, which about 6 hours before. So I sleep very little, as you can see. Lots of phone calls, lots of organization, lots of conceptual architecturing, if I can say that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Lots of putting together. You're thinking, you're looking at the landscape, what's going on, who's moving where, who's been abandoned, what files fell through, what fights fell through, what other opportunities open up. It's awareness, the pool of information is very important, the quickness of thought is very important, and vision, I think. This is a bit of a bullshit what I'm saying, but that's absolutely true. That's what you need to, it's not that easy. The real managing job is very, very hard, so it's matchmaking, you know?
You're somebody who has a lot of contacts and you've worked in a lot of different countries. You've mentioned the States, obviously Europe as well. Yeah. How is the UK market different to the other markets that you've worked in?
I love UK market, you know. I'm going to get my British Boxing Board of Control manager's license next year. And I will manage few UK fighters, and I give very, very good services because UK is very passionate about boxing. It's a massive sport here, and I'm thriving to get some television days as a promoter here and show what I can do, showcase my talent and talent the people who are going to be managing and promoting. I love UK. For boxing, UK is number one for me. Simple as that.
Now, you mentioned that market and the fact that boxing is such a big sport here. With that being said, it seems to me like the market in all forms of boxing, my job included, is very oversaturated. So what would you be able to bring to the UK market that would potentially make you stand out as a promoter or as a manager?
I'll make my promotion company a new top rank, but in Europe. I'll bring Eastern Europeans and UK fighters together. I'll pick crop of the crop, not the ones who's been an Olympic team in the UK. No, I can see the fighter. I can see the fighter that will be big, or I can see the talent. And with our guidance and the training process and mentoring, we're going to bring those who maybe haven't been paid attention to show that it's not about the hype and names, it's about the process of putting things together. It's a craft, clay pottery. Is that correct? That's what it is, really. You know, it's lots of fighters, millions of them, but special ones is only handful.
Now, you're a Russian, you're a promoter who has been dealing with a lot of Russians lately, Eddie Hearn. By all accounts, the Anthony Joshua-Povetkin fight is imminent. Yeah. Your thoughts on the process of that being put together? I know that you've dealt with Eddie Hearn a lot in the past, and I'm sure you've had some sort of dealings with Povetkin over the years. Tell me a little bit about your whole thought process of how that fight's been made and what potentially could have gone on behind the scenes. I know there's obviously the big talk about Joshua Wilder, and now it transpires that this is happening. Just give me your thoughts on that.
My thoughts are that I know Andrei Rybinski very well. I worked with Andrei in the past, and I know Eddie very well. They're perfect to communicate. They alike in some aspect. I do believe their communication is very easy. It will be straightforward. Eddie just probably waited for Wilder, and as Wilder is not coming close enough and quick enough, probably Povetkin is the next. And Povetkin is not as dangerous if it would have been 2 years ago. So Anthony has much more chance now, and I do believe he is favourite in this fight. Although Russians will be saying, "Oh, come on, comrade, what are you talking about?" No. Sasha is a good fighter, but he's slightly past his best. Not because he's getting older, because he hasn't been active enough. And I do believe Anthony has an edge. Although I do believe that Anthony is quite vulnerable himself. And in fight between Wilder and Anthony Joshua, I would fancy Deontay Wilder only because he's a crazy man against Anthony, and I just psychologically I have some analysis, but although Anthony Joshua is a genius still, and I'm not diminishing him, he's a genius fighter. So it's a great, I reckon negotiations will be easy, and I'm hoping to have some input into Matchroom's undercard. Maybe if Paul Reddy, a good friend of mine, will give me a call and saying, "Oh, we need someone," so yeah, it will be good, I'm sure.
What do you make of the very public negotiations with that? I don't know how much dealings that you would have had with Shelley Finkel or indeed Al Heyman over the course of time, but it seems to me like this is probably one of the first fights where the promoters have kind of taken a bigger seat than usual. I mean, even by modern standards. As somebody who has dealt with Eddie Hearn, as I say, I'm not sure of your dealings with Shelley Finkel per se in the past. What do you make of that? Do you see it being one side of the negotiation holding the other side up? I know Eddie Hearn has come in for some criticism. What are your thoughts on that?
I never dealt with Shirley. I know Ludebelli a little bit. He's very pleasant with me. As don't forget, there's a New York Jewish community we're dealing with, so they're special people. Shelley Winkle reminds me of my grandfather, my mom's line. Very similar type of guy, very humorous, I can imagine. Very tough as well. I don't know, it's just games, everything. Do you agree? I don't know. I reckon they're all pleasant individuals. They're probably calling each other and laughing behind the scenes. I don't know. You never know what's going to be happening. I don't know, but they're doing a good job because Deontay Wilder is much more popular now because Eddie was completely right. Nobody knew about him. He is much more popular now. The fight is bigger than ever, and I hope that they will deliver eventually, and it will be sold out stadium, and I'll have someone on the undercard. It's a very, very basic thought, you know. And but really, I'm very pleased that they are negotiating, and I think Anthony Joshua will attract many heavyweights, and there are only handful like Wilder, Povetkin, and whatever. You know, we'll see. There's a new blood that needs to come through, new blood of heavyweights and the fighters, which I'm hoping I'll be at the forefront. You know.
Does that sort of stuff really happen in boxing? Is it very much, it can be somewhat panto in the press and in the media? I hope you're being very honest with me while we're talking. Yeah. But is that prevalent? Is that popular? Sort of this party line, and then behind closed doors, potentially a deal's already been made or an agreement has been made? Happens
in politics, happens in show business. Why do you think it can't happen in boxing? I read the really, really good line someone said once. They said the science that studies criminals that got caught called criminology. The criminals that never got caught is polithology. I really love that. You know, but that's all I'm saying, man. You never know. Could be. I would have done something like this maybe myself. It's entertainment, isn't it? Show business. Let's don't forget, boxing is show business first, professional, sport second. Amateur boxing, sport is first, no show business whatsoever. There you go, that's the difference.
Now, one of your fighters who you manage, as you mentioned, is former WBC champion Mairis Briedis. Yeah. Returns to action on the undercard of Alexander Usyk versus Murat Gasayev. Tell me a little bit about how you got to work with Briedis and how long you've been working with him.
Oh, Briedis is my baby project. He's a second fighter I worked with and signed after David Avanesyan. Had immense work process with Briedis because it was very difficult in the beginning. I came to massive abstractions in Latvia, all sorts of stuff. I wasn't welcome, but eventually I proved everyone wrong. And all those business people who I promised that give me money and I'll make him a world champion, they all believe me now. So I'm really happy that I delivered because I had massive stress and massive pressure in order to deliver and show how good Briedis was. People like Briedis once in 100 years. He's one of the most talented fighters I have ever seen with quite limited amateur background. He's a monster. If he would have been fully fit right now, he would have been the best cruiserweight out there. But I do know there are some little niggles and Mairis needs to rest and all that stuff. Hence the opponent that chosen for World Boxing Super Series undercard for the final. I think Briedis could come back much stronger, and I do believe he could unify the division one day. Although he's 33, but he can, in the next 2 years, can be prolific if he's going to do the right things, and he knows what I'm talking about.
What do you make of that fight, Alexander Usyk versus Murat Gasayev? I mean, it was initially scheduled... Gassiev. I beg your pardon. So your English is better than mine.
No.
Russian pronunciation. Yeah. What do you make of Alexander Usyk versus Murat Gasayev?
Alexander Usyk against Murat. I love Usyk, I love Gasayev. Both really nice guys. Usyk is very different. He will be moving around. He'll be very agile because if you stand still in front of Gasayev, you're going to put to sleep. And we know that. It will be a phenomenal fight. I fancy Usyk's share for his experience and agility, but I don't write Gasayev off as Sasha could get knocked out as well. So 50-50 for me.
Mairis Briedis for the winner?
Well, Mairis Briedis with his French opponent.
Mairis Briedis to face the winner of Usyk Gasayev?
No, I think Mairis needs to take a rest and maybe Yes, definitely. Why not? Not straight away. Maybe December time.
Now, the World Boxing Super Series Super Middleweight division,
Yeah.
still yet to have a date and a venue for George Groves versus Callum Smith.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? It's been a while since we sat down since that Groves Eubank. I think that's 5 or 6 months ago now. We're still waiting for the final. What are your views on that?
I think they're both recovering. Callum Smith and George Groves are recovering. I think it will be in September. I have my own thoughts on the final venue. And if I would be the promoter of World Boxing Super Series, I'd do it in London. In fact, together with Gassiev and Usyk, as I told you, at Wembley Stadium, with Eddie Hearn doing the undercard or supporting Anthony Joshua, massive pay-per-view event, great celebration, England on the map, Gassiev, Usyk, incredibly, it's just like a fireworks for the exposure, but it's not happening. And I love that it's in Moscow because how wonderful is the World Cup that we're having at the moment. It's one of the best World Cups I've ever seen. Fair play to my Russian compatriots, to Umar Kremlov, Kirill Shikutev, Yuri Koptev, Vlad Krunov. You've done a great job. Thank you for bringing the World Boxing Super Series to Moscow. I'll be there, guys. I'll be there. Yeah? And maybe London, maybe somewhere else in terms of Groves and Smith. Don't know. Let's see. I don't want to guess because it's just a contemplation and speculation, you know. Although I think I know where they're going to be, but I don't want to say that. Keep the secret.
You can't keep me hanging on like that. Just finally, talk to me a little bit about the show that you've got this weekend. So the Battle of Bracknell, you see Luther Clay, your welterweight prospect, will be on the card. He's in a good fight against Ronald Garrido.
Very good fight.
Talk to me a little bit about that card.
Right, the card is good. I've got Luther fighting Ronald Garrido. I've got Naylor Ball. He's fighting Hungarian guy. I've got Pink Tyson, Kalia Karuni fighting Christine Shogold. Very tough girl. I do believe it's a very tough fight. We've got George Lamport, allegedly called British Lomachenko. He's quite slick though, but they've got great sparring with Luther. He's fighting Edvinas Paplauskas from Lithuania, the guy who put many people down and the guy who always got unfair decisions and the guy who's a nightmare to fight. That will be a deep water swim. And we've got Rohan Date from Ireland, good looking lad, exciting fighter, apparently really wanted on UK boxing scene by celebrity trainers. And let's see, he's fighting Wes Smith, unbeaten guy, 3-0 with 1 draw. Errol Johnson's fighter, I reckon that will be fireworks as well. So Johnny Phillips fighting Jamie Spade, that a bit of a beef, and I reckon they're really evenly matched. And obviously I mentioned Luther with Garrido. It's a good local card, and I want it to be sold out, and I want to enjoy myself and not run like a headless chicken and meet people, give them tickets and pick up the phone calls and do the matchmaking. I've got a great team this time, and I'll enjoy myself like a normal promoter should.
Okay, well, before you go, it's always a pleasure sitting down with you, Al. Give a message to British fight fans who are going to be tuning in to see you more, hopefully, over the next 12 months. What can they expect from a Siesta Boxing Promotions card?
Just one thing, what I promise, I always deliver. And if you're serious about your career, give me a call. God bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Al Siesta, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.